I'm driving a city bus. It's early in my career. It's the first trip of my first day on a new route, and the first stop on this route is right outside a substance abuse treatment facility in Soto. There's a big crowd of people standing there, and I'm looking at this feeling way out of my element. I grew up in working class suburbs where you didn't really ever encounter folks like this, and I have no idea what to expect. What am I going to do when I get up to that stop and open the doors? When I first signed up for routes like this, some of the old-time veteran bus drivers would tell me, "This'll be the one, Nathan, that totally wipes that smile off your face. This route. Wait till you get out there." Well, now I was out there, and there's 30 guys waiting to get on who, and I say this without judgment, really didn't look like the kind of folks you'd invite over for family dinner. I decided, though, to go out on a limb and treat them all as if they're friends, people I know, just to see what would happen. I said hi to every single person getting on, asked them how they were doing, the whole thing. And you know what? They were the friendliest, most receptive group of people that I picked up on that entire route. We would laugh together about things like thrift stores or how excited we were to go do laundry. I remember a guy telling me that I was the first person to say hi to him all day. This was 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I think we've all heard the term stranger danger because children are not as adept at discerning who's dangerous and who isn't. That's an idea we sometimes pass along to our kids. As adults, though, it's much less of an issue, but the fear that we were taught as children remains and extends itself into environments where, quite frankly, it makes no sense. The person standing next to you in the office elevator is probably not going to kidnap you. The woman checking your groceries, probably not an axe murderer. And yet, we refrain from interacting. What does the term stranger danger really mean? It means avoid anyone who's not just like you. Is that a value we really want to be propagating now? I've been testing out a different idea over the last 12 years of my driving city buses. It's called always talk to strangers. Yes, we fear rejection or that we're going to be a bother, but strangers help us belong. They fill in the space between friendship and solitude. There's a 2014 study that shows people enjoy their commutes more when they talk to the other commuters. An interesting takeaway is that folks underestimated how willing others would be to talk. Also, those who don't normally reach out were surprised at how much they enjoyed chatting. These underestimations point something out. We've developed a collective assumption that is false. Basically, that strangers don't want to talk to us and that we're not going to get anything out of talking to them. Have we forgotten that humans are social animals? We have to reach out. We can't just stay stuck inside our heads all the time. But what about that fear of rejection? I've discovered that reaching out works best if we just go ahead and assume everyone's going to be nice, polite, and friendly. Why should we assume that? First off, they usually are. I drive a public bus, and I see everything. You learn some interesting things when you have access to the full human spectrum, such as whatever attitude I put out is what I'm going to get back in my face times 10. Basically, killing them with kindness works. I speak from experience, and I drive the routes nobody else wants to drive. At the times of night, no one wants to drive them. Does killing them with kindness work every single time? No. But nothing works every single time. It's still worth doing something if it works 90 times out of 100. If you respect people, especially the ones whom you think deserve it the least, you'll be surprised at the number of folks who respond well. Respect has enormous currency on the street. Which brings me to my second point. Strangers are people like us. They like being acknowledged. Whether you're on the street or at a social gathering, folks just want to be seen, heard, loved, whatever you want to call it, recognized as human. When I asked those guys from the treatment facility how their day was, they weren't thrilled because they had an opportunity to tell me about their morning, but because they felt less alone. They felt respected by me, and I felt respected by them. That was special to me. Tony isn't just a guy in recovery. He's a guy in recovery who likes Italian food, has 2 sisters in Houston, and is engaged to be married. Kevin isn't just a guy sleeping at a shelter, pushing all of his belongings along in an improvised wheelbarrow. He's a guy pushing his belongings who had a career in insurance, likes medieval reenactments, and enjoys chatting about the films of Kurosawa, Kubrick, and Wells. These are real people, and being reminded of that energizes me, helps me remember that we all have more in common than we don't. When you're talking to a stranger, you're usually making small talk, which I prefer to call moments of connection, since that's really what they are. Moments of connection are interesting. They tend to make people polite. Most of us become nice and friendly when we're talking to a complete stranger. The person on the airplane, the guy sitting next to us waiting for jury duty. We tend to reserve our cranky side for those we actually know and love, those poor folks. A 2013 study shows that putting on a happy face for strangers, even if it starts off as totally fake, often ends up actually improving our mood. Now, I'm not saying for you to go make friends with everybody. You don't have time to be friends with all these people. You already have friends. This is about talking to strangers as if they're people you know, because remember, we all have more in common than we don't, but not turning them all into friends. When you have a positive interaction with a complete stranger, your brain feels a sense of belonging and connectedness to society at large and the world around you. You cannot experience that sensation with your friends or your family. Your friends and family are not society at large and the world around you. That wonderful sense of wholeness, the well-being that comes from those unexpectedly beautiful moments you have on the street, that's the feeling of being connected not to people you know, but to something larger, the human condition. That's why we need strangers. I was standing in line, I was 12 years old, standing in line at a Barnes & Noble, trying to pay for a novel that was important to me. I was $3 short. The cashier stood there patiently, waiting while I dug in my wallet and pockets over and over, hoping in vain to find some sort of secret magical compartment that would just happen to have the amount of money I needed. After a whole bunch of that, finally, a nearby customer said, "How much does he need?" It was a middle-aged woman I did not recognize, a stranger. The cashier specified the amount, and she chipped in the remaining few dollars. I have never forgotten that person. She set a standard for me for how to behave that I've been trying to catch up to ever since, trying to recreate that moment for others, not with money, but with acknowledgement, which can often be more important. Now, if that woman had been my mom or my sister, the incident wouldn't have been nearly as affecting. I wouldn't have felt connected to the broader act of caring about others, whether or not you know them. It's not that surprising when a loved one wants to help us. We kind of expect that. This is bigger. It's different. Now, I know some of you bring headphones and a book onto the bus because that's the only private time you're going to have all day. That's important. I'm not advocating for you to harangue people and interrupt their quiet time. I'm advocating for you to find a space for strangers. Maybe it's a coffee shop, taking an extra moment with the barista or somebody in line, or that grocery store. Next time you're on an elevator and the silence is awkward, recognize that the silence is probably also awkward for them too. It isn't just you wishing somebody would break the ice. Keep in mind, of course, that unequal privilege complicates these types of moments. As a woman, you may feel wary approaching a man. That's definitely valid. Thankfully, not all strangers are male. How great. Whoever it is, if it feels safe, ask them how they're doing. Don't push if they don't reciprocate, but try putting a feeler out. If they're a huge jerk about it, terrific. You've got a good story for later. But the odds are is it'll be pleasant. We've gotten pretty accustomed to avoiding people. The replacement of real-life social networks with virtual ones has played a big role in that. The number of folks we interact with face-to-face has shrunk dramatically. Car culture is part of that. Driving alone kind of sets you up to not care about others. Can't see anyone, you can't really see their faces. Everyone's just in your way. In a way, smartphones are the new cars. They are the piece of hardware that allow us to ignore everyone around us. We've begun walking down sidewalks the way we drive down streets, with complete and total apathy. You can change that. Public transportation is one way out of that. If anything's going to bring people closer together, it'll be environments where they actually have to interact, like that coffee shop or that grocery store. Have you ever been traveling alone and met someone whom you know you're never going to see again, but with whom you feel comfortable sharing your deepest secrets, things you would never tell your closest people? Or felt that buzz of joy from an amiable hello about the weather on your way to work? Or maybe it's that smile from someone you've spoken with for just 30 seconds. My job allows me to experience those types of moments all day. I share them in my book and on my blog. But even with all those stories, I cannot emphasize enough the degree to which those moments contribute to my well-being. Yes, we know we need friends and family. It's important. But if we want to feel connected to the bigger picture, maybe we shouldn't look just to them. Maybe we need to turn to strangers. Maybe there's a stranger seated on your left right now. Maybe there's another one seated on your right. I'm going to be done talking in just a second here. In fact, I'm going to cut this off right now. Have a great evening, everyone. Thank you.